welcome to our presentation. You're representing FA Davis, and I will hand it to you to introduce yourselves. And you have until, I'm going to give you extra minute because I was not watching the clock too carefully. So 11:30. Okay.
I was impressed with your timer.
From 11:30 to from 11:30 to, let's see, wait.
10:21 to 11:21.
Your formal presentation will end about 11:20, and then we'll have the break. We'll just leave the mic open, and so you can continue to
yeah, that sounds good to me.
Casually and formally.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. I will quickly introduce myself and everything else. I'm just trying to get my presentation open here and figure out how your guys' Zoom works relative to mine, because it looks like I'm able to share.
Carla, have you made them co-host?
I am co-host. I see I can share one screen at a time, so I might be flipping in and out if that's the case. It doesn't look like it allows me to share my overall screen, so no big deal. I'll just pop in and out a few times of things. So let me set that up. But in the meantime, my name is Jeff Briones. I am here on behalf of FA Davis Company, and I'm here with Terri Allen, who is an editor at our company, amongst many other things, and also leads concept-based nursing, but I'll allow her to say hello as well.
Hello, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
And again, just trying to, I basically have to open up my PowerPoint because I have a slide that I have to open up here. And then I have to make sure that Zoom recognizes it. It does, so here we go. And one thing I just want to ask, are you guys able to see my screen? I think you're seeing the wrong one though. Is it the presentation slide or is it the commentary slide?
I see the presentation slide, RN Driving Student Success.
Okay, perfect. That is definitely the one I want to share. I work with a multiple of screens, so I never know exactly which one's sharing on new items. I'm sure you've all encountered this over the 2020 season of trying to learn how to use Zoom and teach a course and make sure that you know who's in your class. But again, my name is Jeff Briones. I am here with FA Davis Company, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an overview of who we are as a company, and then I'll drive into I'm going to cover over our content and how we provide the proper level of content and combine it with the right technology to not overburden students with flashy items or overburden them with pricing concerns. And then I'll start with a conceptual overview, how we go about doing it. And then I'll drive into the live product to go over the concepts and exemplars that you had all asked of us to display. So we'll stick through the first part here, and then I'll dive into the live product. So this will help give like a broad understanding of our content, open up the doors to like questions you may have as you go along. And with questions, I'll do my best to set up enough time at the end where you're able to ask me any questions without going over time. And of course, if we do, my email will be available to you all where you can contact me, and I'm happy to set up meetings individually, in a group, however works best. And so again, FA Davis Company, you may not know, we are one of the oldest independent family managed publishing houses in America. So we're really proud of that. We have a lot of really good stories that come along with being a company as aged as we are. There's a lot of proud people that are rooted in the world of publishing for a very long time. The current owner is still the family who founded the company. So it's been passed down from generation to generation and looking to be that way in the next few years here. We've been around since 1879, so a number that kind of doesn't make much sense. No one would have reference to 1879 other than in the history books. And throughout that time, we've been in the nursing, medical, and health science world. And being around for that long, we've adapted to many of the changes that have occurred in the history of publishing and the world, more or less, since that time. So it speaks volumes to adapting, to a changing, to delivering content that helps us survive as a company, but also that people who are using our content can be very, have shown us that they want us around by using our content. And for what it's worth, we are the only publishing company that has a member on the NLN Foundation Advisory Council Board. So we do have a bit of an ear to the ground with that. It's another little point of pride. And it was really an honor when they asked us to be a part of it. So this slide is basically all of the things that you may have come up with in your own mind when you're thinking, how do I deliver content to the students? You know, is it friendly with the usability? Is it affordable? Do I have enough time? Can I keep my students' retention, rates up? And so on and so on and so on. And the list only gets longer, especially as you're moving from a physical world to an online world and hoping to get back to the physical world sooner than later, I'm sure of it. And just how am I going to make this change from traditional to concept-based without it being such a burden to my program and to me and to the hours that we can afford to delegate to it? And so often this is a lot of what we hear. I would typically put up a poll, but I don't have one pre-established because it's not my Zoom. But often I hear that those are the common ones. So our goal is obviously to drive student success. I think that's most of our goals, instructors, directors. We all want to see the students thrive. We want to see them pass the NCLEX, of course, but you want them to go on and have really successful and fulfilling careers. And so our content, the way we incorporate that into what we deliver is by providing the right content powered by the right technology. And what that really means is that often, we were slower to get to the digital phase of stuff because I think nursing doesn't require it as much up until more recently. And so we've tried to pair a way to put technology with the content that doesn't overburden the instructors for creating it, that doesn't overburden the students' purchasing ability, and it delivers tools that you will use for your course. So we're not trying to say, hey, we have all of this stuff, it's all this, and it costs X, Y, Z dollars. There you are, it looks really nice. And then, you try to implement it and maybe you don't use everything. So while you have the ability to flex some of the tools that we'll provide to you, the way that it's usually delivered ends up being used in its entirety. And so Davis Advantage, because you'll see that image here, it's a bit blurry, but you'll see a better image of it down the road, is that Davis Advantage is a digital product that's housed within the titles, within these titles that you see here. So Psych, OB Peds, Fundamentals, Med Surg, and Patho. And what Davis Advantage does, just at a brief understanding, is that it follows a learn, apply, assess continuum. So when you are all asking for a pre-class assignment, you have personalized learning. There's clinical judgment with clinical judgment case studies that have next-gen NCLEX style questions within them that just released in May that are available with it. And then you have Davis Edge questions, which then allow you to see how the students are understanding the content based on the questions that come from based on content that comes from the book, providing rationales, feedback, and allows instructors to assign those, but additionally allows the students then to drive their own remediation by taking their own Davis Edge questions to prepare for the quizzes and exams, and even more down the road for the NCLEX. So this one product is embedded in all these different textbooks. And so when a student purchases one of them, they'll get access to all of that content that's within Davis Advantage. It's not a separate purchase or item. And so one book that I'll sort of focus on at the start, and there'll be another one that I'll focus on as well, is our Fundamentals of Nursing, because this book will cover infection and UTI. So it does touch on that one. And to kind of clarify even further is that one of the beauties with our books is that, some companies, they will have their own concept-based nursing line of content. Whereas with us, you can use the textbooks that we already have for your traditional program and make an easy change to your concept-based program. And I have programs that have done that, and I have programs that are looking to potentially do that. So for instance, Hondo, they use our Med Surg textbook, and if they wanted to make the change to concept-based, they wouldn't have to do much of anything to change their textbook to move into concept-based. I've already worked with them to explain how it works. They haven't made that change because obviously that's not on the schedule as of yet, but that's why we're having this meeting. And all they really have to do is make some quick adjustments, work with me and my team, and we can explain and we can help them, or they can do it on their own, but we like to help. We can help them find the concepts that they're covering in their course, and help them with the outline in their syllabus to use the same product, the same content, and just go from there and covering the right pages and chapters that they want to cover versus maybe what they would have taught in the traditional program. And that's the beauty of concept-based and traditional in our content, is that while yes, you're teaching the content differently, you're not exactly teaching different content, right? So that's more or less how you're able to make this transition. And what's also nice if Hondo does make that change is they can start making the steps for change by using the book they're using for the traditional program and start making the changes for the day that they need to make the change in a year or so, or whatever the date might be. So they kind of get a runway to make that change. I'm not going to go into detail with this one. This is just giving you a highlight of this is what a chapter looks like in the book. You can see there's concepts covered about the key concept. There's an exemplar, all within the textbook already. So again, there's nothing that really needs to change. It's just, what are you highlighting? What are you showing them? This is going to be hard to read, I already know, and that's not to be done intentionally, but it was more just for visual effects. That in this book, and this one is on UTI, right? This is an assessment. It's going down the, with theoretical knowledge, assessment, AdPi, and even a box on teaching, because you want to educate your patient for longer term benefits and care so they stay out of the hospital. And so this is going to break everything down into one giant exemplar about, for instance, what you guys were asking, which was UTI. So again, I'll cover it in depth in the live product, but I'm just giving you a quick overview of what this stuff can look like. Moreover, in our concept maps, same book, right? You're going to have concept maps. This one is on infection. So I'm just kind of picking ones that were there just to give highlights to it. Students have access to this. Instructors have access to this. Use this in your PowerPoints. Use it however you see fitting. But we are very much ready to make a transition to concept-based, or in many instances, I find many programs are already teaching traditional with a blend of concept already in it, because you have to cover concepts anyways, right? So why not? So what they end up doing is using a lot of the conceptual stuff in our books to complement the traditional course. If you're going all conceptual, then we have all the tools you need to go completely conceptual. And this is just a knowledge map. So this one is on, it touches on MRSA. I won't dare to try to pronounce that full word. It's quite a mouthful, but just showing you a knowledge map. And then another example would be out of our Med-Surg book, right? So if you're using our Med-Surg text, doesn't mean you have to just use it for Med-Surg. You could blend it with the psych textbook, because I know that you might be teaching in a conceptual-based program. You're not going to have just one book for that class, or at least one book may not cover everything. And I know some publishers do that, but even if that's just a goal to save pricing, we often find that our pricing will still compete with a company that uses one book. So it's not as much of a concern for us. And it just makes it a lot easier because we don't have to figure out what we need to throw out. We can still keep all the content that you still deem appropriate and let the instructor determine, is that the right content for their course, for their program. So another quick example, you'll see concepts. We're going to go over infection. It's under the essential term is MRSA. Like I said, won't dare trying to pronounce that. It's just not going to come out right. But you can see we're going to walk into an introduction of what this chapter holds. And additionally, because it's a Med-Surg book, we're going to walk down through MRSA from a Med-Surg point of view perspective. You have the epidemiology along with the pathophysiology and the disease process, and all of that is going to be covered very organized in the Med-Surg textbook. But you can see when you're trying to find and teach this, there's not much you have to do. It's there. You just need to know what page numbers and you're good to go. Concept maps as well. This one isn't particular with any one of the items we're covering, but it was one of the ones we had available, so I wanted to throw it up there. So you still get concept maps with this book. And it's all kind of brought to you by our F.A. Davis Company concept-based nursing roadmap. So if you're trying to figure out what concepts you're covering in your course and you're provided that concept list and you say, okay, great. Now where do I start? How do I teach this? What we'll give you is this roadmap, and we'll work with you on getting this all established, but we're going to cover the NCSBN's NCLEX RN blueprint. And you can see it says 2019 because that's the last time it had been updated accordingly with what we needed to work with concept-based nursing. And as it updates, we update. But there's 4 categories that are covered, and there's 2 subcategories. But the 4 categories being safe and effective care environment, health promotion and maintenance, psychosocial integrity, sociological integrity, and then you can see under safe and effective and physiological integrity, there's subcategories. And that's, I think by and large what you'll find, it's very common. And you can see down below, it's the copyright date of this particular document, June 2021. As updates happen, we update it. A quick look at just kind of an idea of what it would look like. You find your concept, you need an exemplar, we've got you, and you just pull it from the book you need. So this is really easy. It's very simple to draw up what pages you need to cover, what content you need to cover. It's fairly simple. Don't need to get into the weeds with it because, again, if we're going to go into the weed, that's after the adoption. But if we usually start with, hey, do you like this? Do you want to meet again? I'll show you specifically how this would work as an example in your course or your program. And then once all this is an agreement, pricing, everything, I would then walk with you to, and your whole basic, anyone who's teaching it, how to set it up accordingly. So we also provide a concept-based nursing webpage, which houses webinars, content, anything we've covered in the past that is going to supplement and enhance your concept-based nursing, because for many of you, you may have never taught this way. You definitely didn't learn it this way, being that concept-based nursing is so new. Perhaps some of you did, but I imagine most haven't, because that's what I've heard. And so if you're looking for tips, tricks, ideas, we house those webinars we've had in the past, or any upcoming will be put in here so that you have it as a reference, along with critical thinking maps and PowerPoints for concept-based nursing. So additional resources. This slide is just going to highlight those 4 categories I had mentioned earlier. This is because we know that there is no nationally recognized list of concepts. So F.A. Davis list is something we've comprised with our subject matter experts. And so we can provide this to our authors so that they have something consistent to follow in our books and online resources like text banks or Davis Advantage and so on. So you can very much be confident that no matter what book you're using, it's following the list of concepts that we recognize and we acknowledge. And they're the ones you're going to use in your course. I can assure you of that. I haven't run into any issue where we're not covering a concept that a program is teaching. And so I'll move over to here. And now this is that clearer picture that I was mentioning. So personalized learning, these are all the titles. Davis Advantage is the product that comes with these specific titles. And what you'll see is that you have personalized learning. So personalized learning will be your pre-class work, your ticket to class product. Clinical judgment will be your next-gen NCLEX with, or your clinical judgment case studies with next-gen NCLEX questions. And then you have Davis Edge, which are going to house questions that you can assign to students, but students will also be able to do on their own for their own purposes of remediation. And so in addition, when you're looking into then the digital product and why it's so easy for the programs to make a change, right, within a traditional to a concept level, is all they have to do within the digital product especially is switch it over to concept. And it's going to list the same content, but in conceptual order. So you can choose a lot easier. This is also the same with the Davis Edge content. And so I'll stop here. I'll drive into the live product and I'll start working on sort of the task at hand, right? That is the infection for UTI in MRSA. And I know my screen stop is shared. So if there's any questions that you have in the meantime while I'm getting this set up, feel free to let me know. And hopefully I can make the screen change the way I need it to. And Terri, if you want to add anything, feel free.
Not so far, Jeff. Just to reiterate the point that you made about when Jeff and I were talking about what to promote based on your needs and based on your implementation schedule, we thought that it might be appealing to you to think about an iterative process in changing over if you're going to be changing any of the content that you're currently using. That is, rather than flipping the switch in 2023 to change all of your content and go to a concept-based nursing approach, to be able to pull in some of the new content earlier and then have those titles that can be organized in a more traditional or a concept-based approach, we thought would be appealing to you.
And so I've now shared my screen, and thank you, Terri. Terri, can you confirm you can see my screen here, chapter 23?
I can.
Cool. Okay. And I guess if you highlight anything, it highlights it even though I didn't mean to. That's fine. No big deal. So in this chapter, this is the chapter on infection. And so, as we scroll down to the infection, you'll see it's, one of the concepts covered. There is a case study at the beginning of this chapter, but this won't cover specifically UTI, so I won't go into that one for the concept. You'll see about the concept, so it's going to give you a quick introduction to infection. Very simple, brief, but understanding what it is in a very simplistic way. And then reading through the lesson plan, what you guys are asking for. If, for instance, you wanted to have a ticket to class, then that would be the Davis Advantage experience. And so this is why I was going to run into a little bit of a trickiness because I have to switch screens and I don't know if the screen when I pull it up is going to come up, but you let me know. Terri, are you able to see my other web browser, the one with the FA Davis site, or is it still sharing the textbook?
It's still sharing the textbook. And I noticed, Jeff, that we had a question come in from Wendy Dufour about wanting to see the chapter objectives again.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. And thanks for noting that because I think, as you guys know, trying to go back and forth tends to be very difficult with chat and everything like that. All right, chapter objectives. So I believe this was the page she was asking for, but if it was a different page, just let me know.
But you scrolled up way too fast. I didn't see the last ones.
Oh yeah, not a problem. I can make this a little bit larger too, because I know the text doesn't come out. Oh, it's mostly for me. It doesn't come out that big on my side. Maybe one more back, that'll work.
So what I don't see is I don't see, and maybe it's in the chapter, but what I don't see is I don't see nursing focus. That's what I'm trying to see. I see your nursing role in your definition, but in your objectives for the chapter, I don't see it focused on nursing. I see more medical model. I don't know if I'm the only one who sees this, and maybe the other chapters are different, Jeff.
Yep. It'll dive into it as we go through the chapters. So like, for instance, the first thing under here is like, why must nurses know about infection process? And then what it'll go into is these subcategories into here. So depending on what specifically we're going through, and you'll see there's going to be highlights and call outs in this particular text that refer to thinking like a nurse. So it'll kind of take a scenario and drive it to, yeah, this is good to know in general, but then why would a nurse how would a nurse have to think about this? And so let me scroll down to see if I can grab you one, and it's mostly going to be call outs to the case study. So we'll always pull back to that as well.
So you're putting what I'm seeing pathology in here of just the idea of infection. Is that correct?
This is going to be specific. Yeah, this specific chapter will cover the promoting asepsis and preventing infection. And then they'll also highlight the body defense infection prevention, and medical asepsis and surgical asepsis.
Okay,
Wendy,
you.
I use this book and it definitely highlights nursing. It is, we've used it for the last couple of years, and that's the focus in the book.
Who's talking to me? I'm sorry.
Gail.
Okay. Thank you, Gail.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Gail.
And how long do you have them read the entire chapters? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of
No, you can't. You have to break it down and focus on, and every program will be a little bit different for that, right?
Do you feel that, I mean, it just feels very strong medical model in here. That's how it looks. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I see.
No, I don't feel that way. In fact, that's one of the reasons we chose this particular publisher.
No, I appreciate you giving some feedback because you're using the book, so that's really good.
Yeah, sure. And Wendy, I would always offer, just because of condensed timing, like I would be more than happy to do like a quick one-on-one, or even if you wanted to draft me an email so that if you didn't want to schedule a Zoom, I could try to compile some notes to match what you're asking, and I'd be happy to, just because I feel like normally in a presentation I would jump in and like dive into what you're asking a little bit more in depth, but I know with the time constraint, I might step on my own feet.
And it's hard for me to hold back. I'm, in addition to being the publisher for our concept-based nursing, I'm also the publisher for our Med-Surg nursing book by Hoffman and Sullivan. And one of the hallmarks of that book, and the reason why those authors chose to write a book, you know, with the new edition, the first edition came out just just 2 editions ago. The reason why they decided that they wanted to add something to an already overcrowded market in Med-Surg nursing is because they felt that the role of the nurse and the nursing that goes into Med-Surg nursing was not necessarily covered well in other titles. So if we have some time at the end of this presentation or time in another format, I would I'd be more than happy to hum several bars about that, Wendy. Thanks for asking.
And so that gave me time to transition. And thank you, Terri. This helped me transition over to the student side of things. So for instance, I have all the books loaded as a student in here, like as a rep, right? I'm going to have everything in front of me. But you can see here is that if I go into this, and I've created this course, so things I've done behind the scenes is I've created this course and I've joined it as a student. And as I go into it, I've curtailed this course in particular to cover some specific items such as infection, UTI, and then more infection questions that will have infection as the concept, but also some questions on UTI, but also additional questions. And so the typical formatting that would work is that you'd allow the student to do this content before you come to class. And so you can see they have the chapter highlighted. They can quickly scroll to their ebook because we're trying to always drive the students learning back to the textbook. We find the textbook is still in a digital era with things moving this way, that there's still, with all the programs that I have, for all of those who ask for digital content, there's still such an abundance of students that want physical copies that we still are very adamant about providing the students with physical copies. But know that if a student buys a physical copy from us, they get the ebook with it. It is not an either or, they will be provided it as part of the purchase of their textbook. That also includes the digital product. So there is no, you buy this and then you buy this and then you buy this. When they buy the one book, it will come with that content. And that's why the pricing can also be much friendlier towards the students overall. And that's just one thing to know. So what I'll show you here is a quick overview of the pre-class ticket to lab, or ticket to class. So the students will have quick number of questions based on infection in this chapter. And, you know, they're going to be select all that apply mostly because they're trying to make sure that it's difficult. And I apologize if you're not seeing the answers. I'm just kind of clicking the questions in too much detail, but more for the formatting of how it works. So as I expected, I would have gotten a 0 out of 5. That's kind of my anticipation there. That's what students will get if they just click through it as well. And then it'll start. That's just the beginning phase. Hey, did you do your reading? Maybe you didn't understand it so well. So what we should probably do is drive a little bit deeper with this video to describe from real world metaphors, analogies, and tie that into to the nursing concept. So I have the sound muted here, but I will turn on the closed captioning and note that there is a transcript available. So ADA compliance we do have ADA compliancy with our videos and our technology. And so what these videos will do in about 3 to 5 minutes, and these are kind of the meat and potatoes of this ticket to class content, the personalized learning, is it's going to try to do its best to tie in, like I mentioned, real world application content. So something that it didn't matter what student you were, you could understand what they're saying, but then it'll draw it and connect it to then what a nurse needs to know about infection. And so these videos tend to be very, very helpful. Instructors tend to love these. This is where we get a lot of our great feedback. I won't play the whole thing, but I think generally speaking, you have the idea of what that is. Once you complete the video, you'll be driven down into an activity, which will take the video one step further into a more clinical based or more of like a patient based scenario. So it's not just a general concept, it's going to be tying it back together. And in this activity, there's a variety of different activities. There could be, like you see here, there could be another video, there could be questions. There's a number of different options, I think 8 in total, but the student is going to receive instant feedback on these as they do them. And these are there to reinforce the student's understanding of content and their learning. And I'm surprised I did very well compared to how I usually do on here. So I've been getting better with practice. And then finally, as they complete this, they're going to finalize this with 5 more questions that are completely separate from the first 5 questions, which try to then say, hey, you know, based on the fact that you did that first part, you've done your reading, you have completed the activity, will you do better? And in my instance, I did not do better. I did not learn after watching the video and doing the activity. But often you will find that this score is going to be greater than when the student started because they are watching the video and they're doing the activity. And so what this is used for is, one, for the ticket to class. It shows that students will show up to your class with questions. They will not rely solely on your PowerPoints. They will not make sure that you have everything that they need to learn. They will come ready to class, like I mentioned, asking questions, but more so, you will have data on the completion of students as a whole, but individually, and you can use that data before your classes to identify how much time do we need to spend on this topic in class? Do I need to shift my course? Because you may only have an hour, 2 hours, maybe more in some instances, but that's very valuable time, and you want to use that to the best of your abilities. So if you're able to understand how the students are doing as a whole on one particular concept, say they're doing good on one but poorly on another, maybe you want to focus a bit more on the topic that they are not doing well on, right? That just seems to be some common sense there. So this is the pre-class work. So they're able to try again, or they can view they're incorrect, but I'm going to go to this PLP section. This is just showing me my results as a student, giving me feedback. And this is just, again, all the student dashboard. From there, a student is able to take this infection Davis Edge assignment, and this can be done as another part of pre-class. It can be done as post-class. It can be done in class. Oftentimes, it's done after class as a way to tie back to the questions that the student had. You've done pre-work, you've had the lecture, and now it's time to say how well, if you were to take the NCLEX, or at least see NCLEX style questions, how well would you have retained that information? And they'll see a variety of questions in the alternative formats will exist. In this instance, there's 15. There's going to be a variety of style of questions. And so they get to experience all the styles of questions that they will see, minus the next gen NCLEX questions, because those are going to be seen in a different location where they can practice solely on those in a more clinical judgment-based case study. And I apologize for having to watch me do poorly on so many of these, but I think you'll get the idea. And what I'm expediting this for is to show you, once completed, what the student will see at the end of this. So once they complete it, they will get this feedback report showing how they did, explaining if you drop it down, it'll provide a rationale, test taking tip in some instances, a complete feedback report on the side for the cognitive level, difficulty level, client need, along with the chapter, and if there's a page reference, where to reference that instance for that particular question. And they can continually go down through here and use this as a way to understand how they're doing. The more questions they take, they might recognize, hey, I'm not doing well on specific styles of questions. So understanding, applying all of that, they might find that they're not doing well on particular ones. So that's the benefit of the Davis Edge component.
And do note that the feedback that was provided there in the metadata, we do include the concept. So that is a way to dive in and sort this material, sort these questions. You as faculty can make up quizzes based around certain concepts.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that on there. That sort of slipped my mind, even though that is the the premise of what we're here for.
Well, you were so stressed out about answering those questions, right, Jeff, that you forgot.
Yeah,
so.
I think I'm going to have to retake this course again, perhaps. It's not looking good for me. And so then I'm looking at the little notes here that you guys have outlined for us, and I have little notes here to help me with where to drive to. And so then now I have to pop out and pop back in again, so I apologize, but I'm going to show you guys a case study based on UTI. We'll do that one first.
While you're doing that, Jeff, I'll just add that for MedSurg as an example, we're not trying to cover the entire medical surgical nursing textbook with the Advantage learning topics. What we've done with our subject matter experts is identify, in the case of MedSurg, 63 topics and concepts that students must understand in order to succeed in the MedSurg nursing course and pass that course, and then also pass the entire nursing curriculum and be successful practicing. So that's where we focus in on with the Advantage learning modules. And we think that we allow the students to read the chapter. We give them the reading assignment or certain pieces of the chapter. And then if they do, or they don't, we never know, and they don't get it, then we give them the opportunity with a different type of content, the animation, to learn that in a different way. And that tries to address the different learning styles that you'll have in your classroom.
And thank you, Terri. Are you able to see now the Caring for the Winds case study here on my side?
Yes.
Great. So with regards to a case study, there's actually, in this particular book, there's 2 case studies. Caring for the Winds is one of the unfolding case studies with a multi-ethnic, and they have a variety of ages. So they have like the older generation, you have the, all the way through to the baby. You can actually see a little baby in the picture, but you walk with this family throughout the entirety of this textbook. And so depending on what the scenario is or the case study is, you'll be working with a different member of the family. And in this instance, this is the case study that is going to be on UTI. And so you'll have your scenario, you'll have questions, and then as you go through here, there's actually like procedures related to it. But in the case study, you would answer here, and we provide on a separate document that actually the students and the instructors would have access to. So I'm just trying to see if there's something else that I can click on in here without having to change to another tab. And I don't believe there is, because this is just going to be all the procedures. So bear with me for a quick second. Yeah, so then, so where I'm at, just so for reference, is this particular book has 2 volumes, and I'm on the skills portion of it. So everything within here is skills related, but at the top of every skills chapter, there will be a concept, and this one in particular has to do with UTI. And so in here, you have your questions, and then in a separate document, which I'll pull up, I just have to make sure I have the right one. It doesn't want me to have it. Anyways, in a separate document, it'll have everything that you need as an instructor to sort of understand how the student thought through the process. So it has the answers along with the rationales on how to do that. And I'm actually going to highlight one on for a different textbook, this case study in particular, but you'll see that there is a prioritization activity as well. So if you're looking for something to, like in addition to that case study, or you want to add to it, we also have the prioritization activity along with, let's see, this is where you would find like the case study, and in certain instances, like with the MedSurg book, it will have more than one, scenario with that case study.
So Gail, you're using Davis for their fundamentals and their MedSurg? You have all separate, is your whole curriculum Davis?
No, we're using it for the MedSurg, and our it's consistent through, because we have 3 MedSurg courses, so we use it for all 3.
And what about the fundamentals?
That has flexed, let's put it that way. We've used different books depending on the year. I'm trying to see what we are currently using Walter's tour, the fundamentals of nursing, Taylor.
Okay, but normally, Jeff, your fundamentals book should lead them right into the MedSurg book. Is that how it's intended?
It does. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like there's going to be a very slight overlap between what most would consider like a MedSurg 1 course and where the fundamental course ends. You'll be able to pull in content from the fundamentals textbook into like that MedSurg 1 intro to MedSurg. And that also applies to the skills that we have, the skills videos and such. That also will follow along in the same way, where it does tie into that the intro to MedSurg. Correct. And now I think you're just seeing my face, and while That's exciting. I do want to get to, I'm going to show you guys some additional, because one of the questions was asking for post-class activity, which would be found in Davis Edge. But then there is an assessment for understanding in addition to anything else that you can add to the lesson plan. And this is where I'll highlight the clinical judgment along with these personalized teaching plans that we provide for you that are turnkey activities that you can add to your course for in class, like engaging the students while in class. Footprint is so small, so it's hard to see. I really want to share this one. A second, sorry. Yeah, it's this one here. Okay, so then this is back to the student class, but one thing now that I wanted to show you is under the assignments, we have these clinical judgment case studies that can be used for with next-gen NCLEX questions. And so you guys can actually use these in a number of ways, like depending on how you want to implement it. Often they get used as a way to bow tie the content. So if you've been teaching this content and you've gone through everything and you're about to change to something else the next following week, then you can assign the clinical judgment as the bow tie to sort of really tie in all of everything they've learned and see if they can, how well they'll do when faced with these clinical judgment case studies. The other alternative option is if you want to do it as like a ticket to lab. Instructors have used them this way to complete before they go to lab, and we provide debriefing guidelines for these as well. So what I'll do is I will click on the urinary elimination option. I'll be taken to my patient, and then I'll move into the next-gen NCLEX questions. And just so you know, what we found out is that there's only going to be about, I think, and Terri, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they will have a maximum of, well, the first students to start this will be fall 23, and there will only be a handful of next-gen NCLEX questions that even the first group will see. I think they said no more than like 7 or 10 questions will a student see in the entirety of their in the NCLEX when it comes time for the next gen, at least in the first phase of it. So what we provided is 6 different clinical judgment case studies for every textbook. And so there'll be more than enough for students to get the understanding of what they look like. So by the time they see them on like anything that's actually going to be assessed, they'll be confident because they'll have seen these and won't be so perplexed by the styles of these questions because they are a bit different. This one maybe not as much, but so with the next-gen NCLEX questions, they actually have increased the number of select all that apply options, which does increase the difficulty. And so in this question, you can see we have a chart on the left-hand side. And as they look through the chart, they'll look through here, see what's in it, take in the information, and answer the question accordingly. As they move through the progression of questions, it's going to update. And so the chart may or may not update from the last time they were in here. It's just the same as if you were visiting a patient. So the first instance you saw what you saw, and now you come back and the chart may have updated. Based on what's updated or not, but based on the chart, you'll be required to answer the questions and, do the best you can here. And this is what we could call a box matrix question. So this is something they would have never seen before. And I actually have a video that if none of you have seen, it's from, I think it's the AACN that talks a lot about what the next-gen NCLEX will look like, what it's going to be about, and what their phasings like for having it, when they're going to release it and all of this stuff. So if you're interested, I'll drop it in the chat box just so you guys have it. You can click on it and save it as a bookmark to watch later. It's only 30 minutes, so it's actually very helpful. And so again, I'm looking through the chart, trying to understand what has updated, what has changed. And now in this one, these are the drop downs where you're completing the sentences on here. And again, you may have never seen questions like this before. They're not so easy. This question, I think, might be one of the hardest styles of questions that I've come across, where you're provided a number of options, but you're not using every one of them. But in addition to that, you're having to put them in the correct order. So even though you've chosen 6, you can still see there's 2 remaining. So not only do you have to choose them in the right order, you have to determine what is false information here, what isn't necessary. That one I find very challenging. And then this is just highlighting the appropriate information that's being asked. The chart has updated, but I'm just, again, showing you some information. And so this one's slightly different than the last one, where now you're just choosing the appropriate options, not necessarily in order, just drag and drop. And upon completion, you can see this will be very similar to the Davis Edge rationales, but because of the styles of questions, sometimes you're not able to provide right and wrong answer rationales. You have to provide an overall extensive rationale to explain the actual information, not to say what is right and what is wrong, but why this was the appropriate options to choose. And you can see it's going to go into depth, explaining it, referencing the page numbers in the book. It's going to have more added here, I believe, pretty soon. So they'll have more depth of information. And Terri, maybe you know a bit more about that, perhaps not. I know I heard something in the meeting we had a couple days ago.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, no worries. There's, I think what they were looking is they're going to add, I forgot what it was, but these just released in May. So we are tinkering with a small few things just to make them more robust. Nothing that would change the functionality, setup, usage, just adding value to them. And you can see, in addition to the rationale, you're provided with a test taking tip to help the student. It helps the student understand either the way to take the question, but also it could have to do with the content of the question. So that would then be the additional item that adds to your course. And I'll show you one last thing before I try to see if there's any questions or anything like that, because I do seem like I have about 13 minutes or so. And I'm just trying to find the Zoom thing here. Here it is.
I'll just speak for a moment, again, from the publisher perspective. As Jeff said, we're really excited about offering the new clinical judgment exercises, and we have them with all of our books that have Advantage across the curriculum in registered nursing. And one of the things that we strive very hard to do, based on your feedback and other faculty feedback, and certainly student feedback, is every exercise that we write for Advantage, every test question in Edge, every clinical judgment exercise, it's written with the core textbook in mind so that they seamlessly work together. We don't have, generic med-surg materials or fundamental materials that we try to bolt on to help and add on a digital component to our fundamentals, med-surg, anything else. All the product is written to go along together. And I think that really is appreciated by the faculty and students who use the products, because there's not that, differing information on, anything from lab values to, the length of the small intestine and things like that really tend to get the students upset and provide more of an onus or a burden on the faculty to weigh in on that. So that's how we build the products at FA Davis.
And thank you, Terri. Are you able to see it just disappeared on me. Are you able to see the PTP, or is it not sharing anything? Okay. I think it was still opening, so it didn't want to do it. Okay, so as we mentioned, there's data that is provided for the ticket of class, right? And it's nice to have that value, that data tells you that the students are not understanding it or are understanding it before they come to class. However, if you need something actionable, because it's good to have the data, but having data for data's sake isn't, everything, isn't everything that you need. You need to know, it doesn't always, the onus doesn't always have to be on the instructor to create all of the ways to have the students engage. And so if you want to incorporate ways that the students can engage with the material in a class environment because you feel they would benefit from focusing on this content. So what you could do is you could look into one of these PTPs where there are 2 to 3 activities for the instructor to develop and create. There's directions. There will be it just depends on what it might be, but there's going to be different directions, tips, goals, and this happened right before COVID, and it kind of worked out really well in our favor, is that we applied online applications. So in the event that you're still teaching online, or perhaps your program is just online, you're able to take these same activities that would normally be done in an in-group fashion and adapt them to online learning. Then you'll see, again, there's another bolded highlight here, and now you have another activity. And so you can see here's the activity, online application, and then the third one. And so as I go to the very bottom, you'll see if there's ever a handout that relates to this particular activity, then we'll provide it for you. And so all you have to do is download it and place it into your LMS, Canvas, Moodle, D2, whatever you guys use. I know a lot of California is Canvas, so there's that. And so then you have everything you need to engage in that activity. There's no, hey, instructor, be creative, come up with something. It was, you have what you need to implement this activity.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road on this product. What we wanted to do was provide faculty with a way to see how their students are doing before they take the test and start to fail. The last thing that you want to do is that failure to rescue either in a patient or in a student and get there too late when they're already spiraling down. So the advantage, if you assign it prior to the students coming to class, be it an online or an in-person class, then you can see how they're doing. You'll get the grade book that shows, and then you'll have these personalized learning plans to have the active classroom, again, whether it's online or in person. And I know that in the surveys that I've done with faculty when I'm working on revising products, a lot of the faculty say, particularly with the pandemic instances and whether or not they're going to remain hybrid after students are able to come back to school, faculty say, you know, I have 15 years of experience learning to read the room, and this is my challenge in an online environment. I don't know the students if they're getting it or not. I can't read their faces. And that's one thing that the Advantage dashboard will allow you to do, is to get a pulse for how the students are doing, again, before they take the test and before you see it in that way that may be too late to intervene.
And so I'm going to kind of recap, not recap, but add to what I have mentioned that are sort of not specific to content, but more how does FA Davis differ, or at least what are key highlights of us if they're not different, is that desk copies are not a problem for us for adopters who adopt our content. I'm happy to get you desk copies. I'm happy to get your adjuncts set up with digital resources and access to anything. I work closely with my programs to make sure that everyone who needs access has access. Anybody who adopts something from us, all instructors gain access to it. As mentioned before, we have one price with one product. So if you get the print, say if you get it as a bundle, all of the print content that has a digital component will come with the ebook and the digital component, though we are able to be flexible and provide an all digital solution if that's something of interest to the program. And mostly a lot of programs do stick with the physical option, because when they go digital, it's not, a lot of times programs go digital because they think it's a massive price savings. Well, with our company, it's not often that way, because our textbooks are discounted so low already that when you move to an all digital solution, it doesn't save them as much as with other publishers. They're already going to be saving a ton, and they get the best of both worlds with those options. However, there are schools that do all digital, and I can work with them, whether it's through an inclusive access option through the bookstore, or if they just want a digital bundle. However you like it, we are flexible, and that's the part where I think I have been most successful in my position with the company for the last 5 years, is working with the instructors to match the content and needs and communicate that to all the different kind of channels that have to be taken care of, whether it's the bookstore or making sure the students know what to purchase or how to sign into things, providing student orientations, providing my email to your students so that I can help those tech solutions when you just adopted something and you have no idea, and you would just forward it to us anyways. So that way they have a direct line, and I can troubleshoot from there. When you guys adopt any content with Davis Advantage, it does have 3 years access. So from start to finish of the program, they'll have access. And if they need to come back to the program, they typically still have access. And if they complete the program in the 2 years, they have access to prep for the NCLEX. So that's another benefit. It's not a subscription. You're not getting it for 1 year. You're not getting it for 6 months. You're getting it for those 3 years with with the Davis Advantage titles and content. That's another reason why the price tends to be more favorable. If you have an ebook, you can download it to VitalSource, to your app, and you have access to that for life. So long as it's downloaded and you keep it on that same device. We do customizable bundles. So when asked for price, it's very hard for me to give a price, because I will work with the program to make sure that the content that you need is there, tell you what we have, tell you what's going to match what you're looking for, kind of no more, no less, provide recommendations, and then work from there to match the price point that is going to be most productive for your school. So instance, if they need a first year bundle and a second year bundle versus all buying everything at once, that's a very easy adjustment to help spread the cost for students who have really high, as you know, high starting costs. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we can do, but I will note that we tend to be one of the most favorable with pricing, and it's part of our business strategy as a family-owned company. It's kind of something of a point of pride with us. We're not always looking to be the cheapest. It just happens to be that the way that we do business is to think favorably of how students can have access, and provide value to the students. In fact, it actually has helped my wife a ton, who's a PT student at Long Beach State and uses a lot of our titles. There's been ways that I've worked with Long Beach State to help them with pricing so that it was more favorable for her, but also her cohort. So it's just a funny little thing how that worked out. We do provide a deeper discount on all of our content. So right now, if a student wanted a Tabers or something better or something to study with, they could buy that from our website at a deeper discount, and we can customize and make the bundle even deeper if they'd like. Something to note, very important, something that's becoming more popular, we are able to integrate our digital products into Canvas, D2L, Blackboard, Moodle, etc. So if that is something of interest to you, it is something we would work with your admins, and we can make that happen with our digital products. And finally, we provide continuous digital support and training, and it is free to your instructors. So whenever you need support in learning how to use a tool, how to reacquaint yourself with it, how to update the class for the next semester, how to communicate this to your students, me and you also have a personalized digital consultant that we work in tandem to cover my territory that support you whenever you need it. I am happy to extend my schedule out on weekdays and weekends when necessary. And the benefit is that I am in Long Beach, California myself, so I am on the same timeline as all of you. I can see you in person when the time comes. You're not calling across the state or across the country. I'm in your backyard, and I attended some of the schools that I actually work with. So I said one last thing, but I wanted to mention I do work with a school. This is something we came up with. They have the classes that they're teaching, the concepts that they're covering, and they just put an X next to it. And I use this as a way to find and filter out the content to help them with the course creation. So one of the things we can think about. So that is, I think I really came in down to the wire. I tend to love to talk, so I think I timed it well. But if you guys need anything from me, my best advice is just email me. Anything that you need, I'll reach out to those who provide their email. But I tend to be very available whenever you all have questions. And this is sort of the tip of the iceberg exposure to what we offer. But I bet if you were to meet with me one-on-one, I could give you the more in-depth overview of how it works for your specific course, your program, etc. So thank you guys for the time and the opportunity to be here to present our content.
And Jeff, I think you will be hearing from Wendy. She mentioned in chat that she wants to see more of the clinical judgment product to evaluate that, but I'm sure you'll be hearing from her.
Yep,
So,
I'm more than happy to.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
thank you very much. I'll spotlight Terri and Jeff, and it's now time for break, but we'll leave you as co-host for the next several minutes until people can just continue to, it's up to you, but people can continue to ask you questions and chat unsupervised. And Jeff and Terry's emails are both in the agenda also.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you setting this all up and coordinating it.
No, thank you for coming. And I think Terry, Carol and I are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes for our next speaker. So thank you.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you.
We'll record until the questions fade away.
Yeah, no worries. I'll be here until I get booted off.
Hey, hi, Jeff. My name is Adrienne. I was just wondering if we can get your email.
Yeah, I threw it in the chat. It looks like it's starting to get like knocked, kind of how email kind of falls to the bottom of the pile when more people start emailing you. That's kind of what happens to my name. Also, oh, you know what I did? I I think that's my fault. I sent it as a direct message, so that's, I think, why.
Oh, okay, great.
That's,
So I don't know
that's
if you have the agenda that was distributed, but both of our email addresses are in that
Oh,
agenda
yeah,
as well.
I do have it. Yeah,
This Jeff's is jsb@fadavis.com.
got it.
Mine's TWA. Great.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Davis. When I was a nursing student, I used all your products.
Oh,
Woohoo.
thank you.
I love Davis. I'm a professor now, but I love Davis. I mean,
I love it. What
it's
school are you with?
oh my God, I lived through Davis. That's how I got through nursing school. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
certainly. Appreciate it.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Hey, how are you doing, Andy?
How you know that was me? Okay.
Yeah, Zoom.
My name, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I know. I'm like, I haven't heard from you, but I'm not teaching. I'm not a teacher teaching, so I don't know if she reached out to you yet.
I'm not sure, perhaps, but if you let me know, or if you shoot me an email, it's a lot easier for me to track. I'm super forgetful. That's why I rely on like technology to help me remember things.
All right.
Well, really good hearing from you, and hopefully you and many of everybody else will be at the COADN joint conference.
Oh,
Hi,
yeah,
Jeff.
in Newport Beach.
Jeff, this is Catherine.
Hey, Catherine.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Oh, Dr. A.
Yeah,
Yeah. There
That
it is.
that was an excellent presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
Indiana,
for
you're
being here.
that famous, so he recognized you right away.
That's right.
Oh, my friend Christiana.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of names here, but hopefully, again, we get to get out to Newport and be in person. We'll see how it goes. I think it's very tentative, but I think they very much want it to be a thing.
Yeah. Those PTP is actually very good, just for the record.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Thank you.
very good because it's good for small group activities. We actually have used them like for post-clinical stuff, answering questions, filling them out, different things, depends on what, So it's nice
Yeah.
to do pre-class and also just travel with, because and it's fun because it's not just a bunch of questions. So many times I make small group. There's some, like in my tech, that's a puzzle that they just sit there and fill out. There's just so many different activities that's associated with it. And the beauty of it, you guys give us the answer.
Yeah, we wouldn't rely on you guys to have to like know all of the answers. I know you're professionals and everything, but there's only so much that a brain can hold.
Thank you for that feedback. We love to hear that you're finding them useful. And we did add the online teaching applications as well once the pandemic hit the fan a few months back. So
yeah, and then the course outline thing, that's actually because sometimes, especially when you start like, oh my God, you feel like you got to teach everything. And I think I've even talked to Jeff about this, because it's like, oh my God, do I need to go cover to cover with this book? What's going on? So it gives you such a nice guide as to, and making, because before I was like doing chapter 1, chapter 2, but then it's like, when you look at that outline, that teaching guide outline, it would be like chapter 1 and chapter 20. I'm like, what? But it just make it a nice balance for the students as they study. You see what I mean? Versus
Yes.
I think we have to go in sequence. So I like those. And it's I think it gives us a 6 weeks and then 8, it's a variable based on your class.
And I
your
think that's
school.
what helps, so if you guys use the same book for concept based, I think that's what makes it helpful, is that, no one really teaches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the chapters exactly. Everyone has a different way of approaching the content. And so it's the same thing with concept based. You just know, as long as you know the concepts you're covering that you've been assigned, you just go to the chapters where that is assigned. And our books are created and organized to facilitate that. So you don't have to really worry about having to make new changes and updates and stuff like that. Because I know that can be really time consuming, exhausting, frustrating, all that stuff.
we offer those implementation guides with every product that has Advantage. And so that way it's just a sort of an at-a-glance snapshot of all these robust resources that are available and when you might want to teach them based on, as you said, whether you have 8 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever the case may be.
yeah, they decrease a lot of stress. And when you think about trying to prep and what you need to do, I'll just always go to the resource, start there. I learned to start there versus in my head.
Oh,
Because
great.
it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know? So
That's the point. That's the point.
yeah, because you can't, just teaching, and we teach for like 4 hours. The anxiety is crazy. And then that's what, 16-hour prep. So, but it's nice. That cut down and give you a nice guide for it, So that's one thing I appreciate.
Glad to hear that.
But anyway, hi, Jeff.
Yeah, it's been so long. We had a lot to catch up on, so that's understandable. Oh man, I'm so ready to get to see people again.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, Jeff, I haven't talked to Jeff this summer. And I'm like, oh, I don't need to because I'm not teaching the class this fall.
Yeah, right. You're
It's
that's not as necessary.
I know, it's just like one of my to-do lists before I start. Okay, contact Jeff. Like, what's new?
Yeah, if you want to send me the you don't have to do it now, but if you have the contact details of that new instructor or other instructor, feel free to just email it to me, and then that way I can just send an email out from there. That'd be really helpful.
Oh yeah, she probably already, because she's just one of her regular instructors. She's just covering the class.
Yeah,
So
that's what I figured.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
probably I'm sure she's familiar with you already.
Yeah. I'm sure we've emailed.
Yeah.
It'll be good to know she's the one teaching it, so I can direct my efforts towards what she needs.
Do you all have any other questions for me and Jeff? Or if not, we'll jump off and look for your emails.
Yep, I suspect at this point everyone's headed to take the quick breather that
Yep.
they now have. So again, for those who are still on, I really appreciate you making time on Friday to be here, and I'm available through email pretty much anytime. Even if you want to call me, it's probably best just to email and say, hey, can we call? Because the phone, I don't know where I'll be exactly with calling and whatnot. But yeah, thanks again, guys. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. And I'm looking forward to talking to any of you who reach out. And I'll be reaching out as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.